Hello and welcome to our third session in this Edit Tools chapter, and in this session we are going to explore the Inset tools and the Bevel tool. So to begin with, I will come into Blender and I have the default cube present here, and as of now I will press tab and enter into the edit mode, and in the edit mode if I press 3 on my keyboard I will come into the face selection mode. And in face selection mode, I will come here and select any one of the faces. I have selected the top face now, and now normally see, if I press E and then immediately press S, and if I move it, see I can scale it down or scale it up like this by using E and S. So I will just scale it down like this, and I got an inset of the face like this. So then if I press E and move it, see I got an extrusion with a step. However, instead of pressing E and S, if I come over here, I have the next tool here, which is the Inset Faces tool, and the keyboard shortcut for this is I. So now if I select this and if I press I and if I move it, see it automatically the face is inset inside and I get a surface like this. And now I will select this, press E and extrude it again. Now when you are extruding it like this, see when I press I and when I move this, you can see at the bottom you have various keyboard shortcuts available, and one of them is O, outset. So if I press O, now you can see that it is getting scaled not inside but outside, and outside you can see a line moving here. See, now if I press Ctrl, I can just tweak it like this. See, I have added an outset, and then if I scale it like this, I am going to scale this in this way. So this we call it as the outset. If I press I again, see it is in the outset mode now. If I again press O, it is a toggle button, it is now inset. So I can insert it again like this, press E and move it like this, then again press I, it is going to inset. If I press O, it will outset like this, and after its outset, if I press Ctrl, I can just tweak it like this. So I can create this kind of structure by using the Inset tool. So in this case, we were working with just one face to create this structure. So I will press the numpad 1 and come into the front view, and I am going to call this cube now as Inset example single face, and later on I will press tab, come into object mode, press GX10 and I will move it side by 10 units. Now after this I will again press shift plus A, and this time in the mesh I am going to add an UV sphere. See, I have added an UV sphere, and now in case of this UV sphere I will press numpad 1 and come into the front view, press tab and come into the edit view. I will just zoom it in and then press Alt A to deselect everything, and in the face mode selected I will press C to get the circle selection tool. I will roll the mouse up, make this brush smaller, and from the center line I am going to select 3 to the right and 3 to the left and 3 to the right, and by chance if some other face is selected, I can middle mouse click and roll the mouse on it to deselect. So like this I will press escape and come out of the circle selection tool, and now you have a selection like this, and in this selection now if I press E, this gets extruded. This is as of now getting extruded in the normal extrusion, but what I want is I will right click and cancel it, press Ctrl Z and remove the extrusion. Then I am going to press Alt E, and now in this list I am going to choose the option extrude individual faces. And now if I press E, you can see how it is getting extruded as individual faces. Now after I extrude it, if I press S and scale it, you can see everything is getting scaled to the center. However, I will right click and cancel it. I will come into this transform pivot point, and in this I will choose individual origins. And now if I press S and scale it, see every face is individually scaled down, and I got some structure like this. And now in this case, if I press I, the inset tool, and if I move it, see right now the inset is happening on the outside. So if I press O again, this is going to happen inside. So I can move something like this, and I have set the inset here, and once I set the inset, then again press E and scale it out like this. See, you got the scale like this, and then press S and set it to 0. Okay, so now I got some structure like this by using the inset tool. So I will press tab, I will press 1, and now I will name this second as inset example multi faces. Now after this, I will press this GX and I will move it by 10 units. So I have moved it by 10 units along the left. Now I will press Shift A, and this time I am going to add a grid. I will press RX90 to turn it towards the front view, and here if I press the tab, by default this grid has 10 horizontal divisions and 10 vertical divisions. Now in this case, in face selection, if I press I, you can now see as of now this is getting scaled to the center. I doesn't want this to scale like this. I want this to be individually inserted. In that case, I will press I again. On the second I click, you can see every face is now actually, see, you can see this has been scaled down. Now I will click it, then I will press X and I will delete the faces. And if I press the tab, you can see a gallery type object has been created. I am going to come here, and for this grid I am going to call this as inset holes, and I am going to rename this. Now I will press G, Z and move it along Z by 10 units. So these are some of the examples of the inset tool. The other tool that we have is the bevel tool, and for the bevel tool to understand, I will press Shift A and I am going to add here a cube. Now in this cube, you can see that all these edges are sharp. Now I will press tab, and with all the segments selected, I will come into this option bevel, and the keyboard shortcut for this is Ctrl plus B. So now if I press Ctrl B, I am in the bevel mode, and if I drag the mouse, you can see all these edges are creating a 45-degree angle like this. I will create an angle like this, and if I release the mouse, I have the bevel adjustment here, and in this first I can set the width. I will set the width to around 0.2. Then you have number of segments. Right now this is very straight or flat. So if I increase the number of segments, see this becomes like a curve. So you can now see this appears like a curve. And then you have shape set to 0.5. So if I drag it here towards 1, see how it changes, and if it is -1, it will go inside like this. So I am going to get the shape like this if I move it, if I make it less than 0.5. And after this, apart from this, you have another option here, whether you want this to affect the edges or the vertices. Right now this has affected the edges. So I will press tab, I will press the numpad 1 and I will press GZ-10 and I will move it to the bottom. I will again press Shift plus A, and this time I am going to add another cube, and in this case I will press tab, and now in this case what I will do is I will press Ctrl B, but this time see when I press Ctrl B you can see various options available: confirm, cancel, width type, width, segments, profile, clamp, harden, seam. So you have so many options here, and in this one of the option that I have is V, affect edges. So if I press V now and if I drag it, you can now see that the bevel is happening not on the edges but on the vertices. So I can just drag it like this and I can create a structure something like this. I will call this here cube 001 as vertex bevel, and I will call another cube as the edge bevel. So this is how we are going to make use of the bevel. Actually, bevel can be added to the object in two ways. One is in the edit mode by selecting the vertices and edges we are going to apply it, and another one is using the modifier tool. Say for example, I will come into this object, inset example single face. So now in this, instead of going in tab and applying the bevel, I am going to come into the modifier, add modifier, and I am going to search for the modifier bevel. And when I apply bevel as a modifier, you can now see it is applied to the entire object, to all the edges. So in this control, I can control this amount of bevel, and then I can also control the number of segments, and I can adjust the angles, and also I can set the amount. So either I can make it, so I can set this amount. So I will set this amount to around 0.3. So now this bevel is applied as a modifier. So the difference between applying the bevel as a modifier and directly to the object in edit mode is, in case of edit mode, once this bevel is adjusted, I cannot change it. Say for example, I want to change this bevel from vertex to the edges. That is not possible, because this is called as destructive beveling. Whereas in this case, we are carrying out the non-destructive beveling, wherein you can, even after applying it, come over here and choose vertices, and you can now see the bevel is applied only to the edges. Okay, so I will set it back to the edge mode. So come into your folder, and I am going to name this as 19 underscore, and I am now going to create a new folder and I am going to call this as to edit mode, and in this folder I am now going to save this work as 2.1 and I am going to call this as inset bevel sample, and I am going to save this file. Okay, so we have explored what is inset and bevel in this session, and in the next session we are going to explore the loop cut and the knife tools.